iOS 10 is almost here. It's only 2 weeks away. Well, the developer preview is only 2 weeks away. The actual release will most likely be at the end of September among the iPhone 7. And to be honest, we haven't seen any big iOS updates since iOS 4. iOS 4 brought folders and multitasking, which was huge to iOS. And then iOS 5 brought Siri, but then Siri was a unique feature, an exclusive feature to the iPhone 4S and newer. And then iOS 7 brought a completely new design to iOS. And since iOS 7, we haven't seen any big updates at all. So hello everyone, and welcome to the ZONEofTECH. I'm Daniel, and in this video I'll be covering all the features, everything we're expecting to see in iOS 10. Enjoy. So first off, I just want to mention the name. iOS 10. 10 is a huge number, and there's a slight possibility that iOS will change its name from iOS 10 to iOS X, just like we have on macOS, but then at the same time, there are rumors suggesting that macOS will be changing its name from macOS X to just macOS. So yeah, this was just something I really wanted to mention. Might happen, it might not happen, but I just wanted to mention anyways. Also, iOS 10 has been in testing for quite a while now. More and more websites have started detecting users accessing their websites from iOS 10. So yeah, iOS 10 is really close. Now there are a lot of changes that we're expecting to see, and the first one is Siri. So some of you might remember what I've said in my WWDC What to Expect video. In this video I told you guys that Siri is actually coming on the Mac. So there have been some leaked images from apparently what's supposed to be OS 10.12 showing Siri running on a Mac. So Siri is definitely coming to the Mac finally after 5 years, and because of this we also expect to see an improved version of Siri on both Mac and iOS as well. So they expect to see an improved Siri, a smarter Siri, because the main issue with Siri at the moment is that Siri actually uses pre-registered words and sentences, and then it uses algorithms to simply link those words and sentences together. However, the link is pretty simplistic because if you ask her a more, a weirder question, she'll most likely tell you to search the web. So we're definitely expecting to see quite a lot of improvements when it comes to Siri on both iOS and Mac. Number 2, a new and redesigned music app. So let me know in the comments down below how many of you actually use Apple Music and how many of you use Spotify or something else. Let me know. But the main issue with Apple Music is its interface. So Apple Music does indeed have a really complex interface when compared to Spotify, for example. It's pretty difficult for newer users or older people to get used to. So it's not that intuitive. So they expect to see a much more simplistic interface, and there have also been reports suggesting that Apple will be moving to black instead of white as the accents in the app. So we might just get an app that looks pretty similar to Spotify, which is actually a pretty good thing, to be honest. And also a lot of the extra functionality will be removed in order to make the app way more simplistic than it currently is. So what do you guys think about this? I personally think that Apple Music definitely needs a redesign because it's pretty difficult to get used to if you're an older person or, a newer user. Spotify is way more intuitive and simplistic, and in terms of the interface, I personally prefer Spotify, but then when it comes to finding music, I actually prefer Apple Music. So let me know in the comments which one you currently use. Moving on to number 3, we have 3D Touch. Now in terms of 3D Touch is kind of limited at the moment. So it's actually limited to some of the first-party apps, not all first-party apps supported yet, and then some third-party apps that also have the function included, well, they support it as well. Other than that, there's not much that you can do with 3D Touch yet. What we do expect to see is finally the use of 3D Touch in the control center. So for example, you will be able to press harder on the Wi-Fi icon, for example, and then simply choose the Wi-Fi settings from there, or settings for the Do Not Disturb app and so on, instead of having to go to settings and adjust those individually. Now, one really interesting use for 3D Touch, this is obviously not coming, this is just my suggestion, would be a dashboard. So by simply pressing harder on the display, you would get something like a dashboard with widgets. That would be awesome. That would be really awesome, especially on iOS since you don't actually have widgets on the screen. That would be awesome, but I don't think it's coming. It should be coming. What do you guys think? Is it a good idea or a bad idea? Dashboard by simply using 3D Touch on a home screen. Number 4, speaking of widgets, we have widgets. Now this is not necessarily a feature that's coming to iOS, it's something that I really wanted to mention. I really like the way widgets are on Android. Being able to place them on a home screen, any widget you want, wherever you want, that's just awesome. Now in case you don't know, widgets have already been introduced for iOS in iOS 9. So in iOS 9, from iOS 9 and onwards, you can actually add third-party widgets in the notification center. So if you open up the notification center, you can have different widgets from different apps. However, you don't have any options for actual on-screen widgets like you do on Android. And even though I really want to see some on-screen widgets on iOS, I don't think we'll probably ever see this, especially since, yeah, on iOS 9, this is one of the main features of iOS 9, one of the features they focused on, widgets, but in the notification center. So apparently this is Apple's way of handling widgets. Let me know in the comments which variant, which version do you prefer. Android style, having widgets on the home screen, or Apple's more hidden version of widgets, having them in the notification center. Let me know which version, which type you prefer. Who knows, maybe iOS 10 will actually bring on-screen widgets, but on the iPad, because on the iPads we actually have a much larger display, so it would actually make sense. But again, this is not a confirmed feature, so let's move on to the features that are most likely coming to iOS 10. So number 5, this is also really expected, a custom control center. So iOS 7 introduced control center. Being able to instantly access some settings, turn on Wi-Fi and airplane mode, do not disturb mode, launch the camera, the calculator by simply swiping up from the screen, that's just awesome. However, the main issue is that you cannot actually customize a control center at all. But this is most likely coming in iOS 10, being able to add custom apps and custom functions in the control center. I'm not sure exactly why Apple hasn't introduced this yet. This is one of the most requested features, and this is most likely coming to iOS 10. What do you guys think about this? Being able to add custom apps in the control center. I personally think it's a pretty good idea, but I don't think it's that needed because you have the app drawer, so you can have all of your apps there. So an even better idea would be to add a scrollable app drawer. Just because in the control center you already have all of the things that you kind of need the most. You have the camera, which you kind of need everywhere you go. Then you also have the calculator, the flashlight, and then you have the clock, which I'm guessing you could replace with something else. Number 6, we have NFC Pairing. So NFC comes from near field communication, and yeah, iPhone, starting from the iPhone 6, all the iPhones now have finally an NFC chip. Now, Android phones have had an NFC chip for quite a while now, but iOS phones have only started having it since the iPhone 6. And that's because the iPhone 6 introduced Apple Pay. Now, a really interesting thing that you can do with NFC is that on Android, for example, if you go to the bus stop, some of you might have seen those signs with NFC, simply hold your device here and it would access a website, it would do something. That thing doesn't work with iOS devices, unfortunately. Some of the digital cameras, like the camera I'm recording this video with, some of those cameras, they actually have NFC included, and by simply holding your device, you can actually pair the device with the camera, and then you can see on the device whatever you're recording. And that doesn't work with iOS, even though iPhones, starting from the iPhone 6, they do have an NFC chip, but it's only used for Apple Pay. So this will hopefully, most likely be fixed in iOS 10. NFC device pairing, most likely coming with iOS 10 as well. Number 7, that's it. Number 7, this is definitely coming, this is actually confirmed, a standalone HomeKit app. So in case you don't know, HomeKit is actually a framework, so developers can actually build apps using HomeKit, and then you can build an app that turns on the lights in your house, Wi-Fi enabled lights, and then with HomeKit you can actually have Siri enable those lights, and this is currently possible in iOS 9. However, you don't actually have a standalone HomeKit app. Like if you want to turn on the lights in your home, you can either ask Siri or use a different app for every single light you have from a different company. So you kind of need a lot of apps. And a standalone HomeKit app wants to fix this. So by having a single app, you would be able to do everything you would normally do from different apps, but from the same single app. So this is pretty cool. I personally don't actually have any smart appliances in my home. Let me know if you have anything interesting like a smart fridge, smart lights, smart outlets. Let me know. Number 8, this is not confirmed, but there have been a lot of reports suggesting that this might be coming to iOS 10, multi-user support. So as some of you might know, on Android and yeah, even on Mac, you have the ability to add multiple users so that multiple users can actually use the same device. Now on iOS, you don't actually have this ability. You can only use one device per user, and this is supposedly going to be fixed in iOS 10. So multi-user support might be coming to iOS 10. Again, this is not confirmed. This is just a small possibility, like 40% chance of coming. Number 9, this has actually been confirmed. It's been confirmed that the Photos app will get quite a lot of improvements. So the Photos app on iPhone it's already pretty smart. You can actually edit your photos, and when you edit a photo, it's automatically saved on all of your devices. So that's pretty awesome. And the Photos app will apparently get quite a lot of improvements. Improvements like brushes, and there have also been reports suggesting that layers will also be coming to the Photos app on mobile. This would be really interesting because at the moment, if you really want to do some heavy duty editing, photo editing on iOS, you kind of need quite a lot of third-party apps. Number 10, this has also been confirmed as one of the main features in iOS 10. Finally, the ability to hide certain apps. This will be especially useful with stock apps because yes, on iOS, you do get quite a lot of stock apps that you don't actually need or use, like the actual stock apps or maybe the Compass app, or I don't know, different apps that you never, ever use. Now on Android, this is not actually an issue because you do have the app drawer, so you can choose what apps you only want on your home screen. But on iOS, all of your apps are on your home screen, so there's no way to actually remove or hide certain apps apart from uninstalling that app. So hiding certain apps is also coming in iOS 10. Let me know in the comments which apps you have never ever used, stock apps. Let me know. Number 11, we have Apple Pay. So Apple Pay is expected to come with quite a lot of improvements. Currently, you can use Apple Pay in the stores. Then you can also use Apple Pay in a specific app if that app supports Apple Pay. However, if you want to use Apple Pay online, let's say in Safari, on specific websites, you cannot actually do that. And this is supposedly coming with iOS 10, being able to use Apple Pay in pretty much any website you want in Safari. Now, this is not a big of a change because the whole purpose of Apple Pay is to speed up the checkout process. And already on websites, Safari pretty much saves your credit card information and you just click a button and then instantly you have all of your credit card information. So this would be, I don't know, half a second quicker with Apple Pay, but it's not going to be that much of a difference. Number 12, we have performance and battery life improvements. So as some of you might know, there are two main issues with iOS devices. One of them is the battery life, especially with iPhones. It's not that great, and then the second one is the performance on older devices. So if you have an iPhone 4, an iPhone 4S, an iPhone 5, even a 5S, you probably noticed that the performance on iOS 9 is not as good as it was on iOS 8, iOS 7, or actually the stock software that your iPhone came with. So you do expect to see some performance improvements, especially in older devices, and also some battery life improvements. Although don't expect those changes, especially the battery life improvements, to be that huge. And finally, number 13, the final thing that I want to mention is the support. So which devices will actually support iOS 10? So previously with iOS 9, even the iPhone 4S and even the iPad 2, seriously, even those devices that came out in 2011, so 5 years ago, even those devices still come with the latest version of iOS 9. Good job, Apple. Now in iOS 10, we do expect to see the iPhone 4S and the iPad 2 being dropped from the support, maybe even the iPad 3 actually. So we most likely get the iPad 4 and newer, and then the iPhone 5 and newer. So there you go, everything we know in terms of iOS 10 so far. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see my developer preview coverage as soon as the developer preview is released. And also feel free to follow me on Twitter at ZONEofTECH if you want to get any more iOS 10 tech updates. Other than that, feel free to give this video a huge like if you have enjoyed it, and also let me know in the comments if you've made it to the end of this video by saying I've made it to the end of this video, hashtag iOS 10. And also let me know in the comments as well, what are your top 3 iOS 10 features. My personal 3 things that I really want to see in iOS 10 from those that I mentioned would be the NFC support, battery life improvements, and the custom control center. Let me know in the comments which would be yours. Also, don't forget to turn on notifications on my channel on both desktop and mobile. On mobile by simply clicking on that bell icon next to my channel so that you're notified as soon as I upload a brand new epic video. But yeah, this has been pretty much it, so thank you all for watching this video. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in my next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out.